Welcome, everyone, to the Solutions to Wellness podcast that brings you information on anything you could possibly think of when it comes to wellness, finances, the economy, leadership, fitness, nutrition, all these things. You just got to change your perspective on what wellness is, but understand that total wellness is everything that makes our lives effective. So, today we're going to discuss a couple things. One of the things we want to talk about is knowledge capital and the conversations we have about that. Solutions to Wellness podcast began to help spread the awareness of the Solutions to Wellness Expo. The expo that brings you similar things to what we discussed before, all aspects of wellness into one location in the community, to grow people, to grow businesses. It's all designed to bring growth. So, Solutions to Wellness Expo, January 11th, 2020. You can sign up on our website at solutionstowellnessexpo.com. I'd like to begin with a question, and that question is, Zach, what is your favorite quote?
I don't know if I have a favorite quote. The one that immediately comes to mind is remember tomorrow. It's something that always comes into my head when I'm going to short out on something, when I'm running and I'm going to let off the gas or stop 20 yards short. It just naturally comes in my head, remember tomorrow. Like, how am I going to feel about stopping short tomorrow? Just before we started this podcast, I had 8 calls left to make for our expo, and I was going to not do it, and I thought about remember tomorrow. So that's what I think of when I think of a favorite quote. I don't know if it's my favorite quote, but it's immediately what pops into my head.
Very good thing to remember. Tomorrow, that is.
Reciprocating, what's your favorite quote?
Again, I don't know if it's a favorite, but it's definitely one I don't really have memorized, but it comes into my mind many times. But this one is a quote from General Patton, and it is as follows. A man must know his destiny. If he does not recognize it, then he is lost. By this, I mean once, twice, or at the very most 3 times, fate will reach out and tap a man on his shoulder. If he has the imagination, he will turn around and fate will point him to what fork in the road he should take. If he has guts, he will take it.
General Patton.
Yeah, good one. So essentially, whether you believe in fate, destiny, God, anything, whatever you believe is presenting you with opportunity, quit overlooking it, essentially. Stop overlooking opportunity that's slapping you in the face. Have the gall to take the opportunity, to change, to grow.
Do you think fate as a definition, though, is like it's bound to happen? We should look up like the actual definition of fate, because that's what when I hear fate, it's like it's bound to happen regardless of what you do. And he's not referencing fate in that aspect.
No, I believe it's something along the lines of you're doing something and it's not working and there's continuous opportunity to change it, but you're just comfortable. So you're continuing to not change it and you're just not being effective.
Why do you like that quote?
Because I've been through many of those instances. And he says at most 3 times. I've probably been through more than 3 times.
Tell me one.
The one that really changed everything was the incident that a gentleman was struck by a vehicle, and I essentially just rendered some first aid and stuff until people got there. That's the one that sticks in my mind because it was literally the one that I finally had the guts to take the right fork. or a different fork?
That is a tragic but good story.
Powerful
Powerful,
story.
yeah. How did that change your thinking when you took the right fork in the road?
Yeah, correct myself. I don't know if it's the right fork, but it was a different one than what I was on. And I don't think it changed my perspective. It changed my perspective, but it didn't change my habits instantly. It just really made me stand back and reflect pretty hard. And then decided to take action. You had a pretty interesting knowledge building conversation recently. You mentioned a lot of different things that all kind of correlates back to one foundation. So dive into some of that information.
Yeah, so I met with the leader of a very large organization for a little over an hour, and in that hour, this was actually the second meet with him, and in the hour I had with him today, I got 4 pages of notes here of amazing content. First off, I walk in and he's got this massive bookshelf in his office filled with books on, you name it, leadership, theology, Christianity. And I'm like, wow, that's an awesome collection. And he's like, oh, these are just like some spares that I brought with me from home. At home, I have an entire room with built-in walls. Like his walls are made out of bookshelves. Like it's just a whole library of books. And we dove into a couple of books. I was asking him some questions, and he knows Greek language. He's explained to me like Greek. He got all excited, and it obviously it excites me. Like it's not something you're around very often. Someone who's in a high-powered position just sitting down and sharing their knowledge with you. So it was just amazing to sit there and soak it in. And in that hour, the one thing that he kept coming back to, and I wrote in big letters, is patience. Patience throughout the process and whatever you're doing. And it was grounding for me just because of where I've been at recently, and I think a lot of us just want things, right now. You want things to happen right away. That's just natural. And he talked about patience and how, he wasn't always in this office. He wasn't always, the leader of a big organization, and how he was once 37 years old, no money to his name, no support from his parents. He had support from, family members, but people see him right now and respect him as a man, but there was a point when he didn't have that respect, maybe from a few people, but not as many as now. And the whole point was, he was just patient. He was patient in his faith. The other big part was he talked a lot about just God's sovereignty, and that's how he established his patience. He believed that God had a plan for him, and he just following that plan and being patient in following that path. So it was an amazing hour, but those were 2 of the biggest things that stuck out from the meeting.
When you're in that conversation with that individual who is obviously very impactful and influential, what are you doing personally? Like, are you, obviously taking notes and stuff, but just what are you doing?
Trying not to talk. I don't want, I'm sure I could provide a little value in his life, but there's not he has the value for me. That meeting, he graced me with his time the way I was looking at it. Everyone's time is valuable, but me being in that chair, I didn't want to waste. I knew he's on a tight schedule. I didn't want to waste a single minute of me talking about anything that would just waste time. Like, I wanted to get as much out of him and out of that meeting as possible. And I was actively listening the whole time, taking notes, trying to ask calculated questions.
I think everybody can learn a little bit from what you just said.
How so?
You're just extremely respectful of an individual's time, and you didn't want to talk about yourself and what you're doing. Obviously, like you said, he is valuable in his experience and where he's gone with his organization. You're there to learn. You're there to take away something. It comes to like respect, respecting time, respecting him, respecting what he's done.
You also had, we've been like seeking out high level people, and you've been speaking with some high level people. Why is it, or how has it like changed you talking with those people?
I'm very cautious, much like you said, of what I do say, because I feel as if those individuals have to deal with a lot of making other people happy and stuff like that. They don't have much time, but you don't want to fill that time with like complaints or menial conversations, right? So I don't want to go to someone in that level and just complain about something that's menial that they probably honestly can't change. It's going to take more than just one person deciding. So do my best to actively listen, but those conversations have made me want to kind of wean out that stuff that doesn't really matter. Just get to the point, get to the question, and kind of be more direct, but in a positive, proactive way, not just to be mean, just being direct with purpose.
That's a great point of maximizing. I mean, ultimately, just maximizing your time with them. Correct. I mean,
having the most effective, efficient conversation possible when you have, how did we get these meets? How, realize, be grateful that you have that opportunity and that it's a very small opportunity. So be effective and be efficient with your conversation and the points that you want to discuss.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important to talk about really the importance of reaching out to people maybe you admire from social media, from seeing them in work, you're curious about their work. I think it's important to address kind of that topic of reaching out to someone you admire and asking them, whether it be for mentorship, asking them for advice on a topic. Wouldn't you agree?
I do, but also it depends on who you're talking about, because a lot of these people that you reach out to on social media are not going to answer back and whatever, but maybe not forcing a mentorship or a conversation, but somehow being creative and getting their attention. Or just be relentless in getting a conversation with them and take action constantly, show how serious you are, but you're not like forcing a relationship with them. That'll come, and if they meet you and they see what you're doing and they talk to you and you guys connect over a conversation. Why did you originally reach out to this individual?
Exactly what I referenced. He is someone that I admire. I look up to him as a leader. I've seen him in action. I follow his work. I have crazy amount of respect for him and just him as a man, what he's doing with this organization. It's something that I'm just super curious to learn more about, and I want to learn more about him and his tendencies and how he got there, and like just I wanted to understand him more, and not so much that I could. It's not like I want to be exactly like him, but I want to have takeaways from him, like, oh, that's a good point that I can apply to my life.
I think we don't want to be exactly them, but those people, those minds, similar minds attract each other, and when those people have proven that their methods work, you appreciate when you're doing similar methods and it connects, right? So he's got a huge library. You admire that because you're an avid reader. Things just for an example, right? And I think that that's why those conversations are so intriguing to us and other people, is when they connect. And it is someone that has been doing what they're short doing what they're saying and then also doing what you are involved with and growing that. It's intriguing and gain knowledge.
Mm-hmm. So there's a question I had written down that I did not get to in this conversation. So I'll ask the next wisest person I know, you. What are your thoughts on having like a sole purpose in this life? So like you're destined, your fate is to do this one thing. And I guess I should preface this question with kind of where we're at societally, where like everyone's searching for purpose and things, and, you know, find your purpose, find your passion. So what are your thoughts on that?
If you have to search for it or find it, how is that a purpose? That's kind of what I think. If you are actively just constantly trying to find something that fills your void, I don't believe that is the correct way to find your quote-unquote purpose. Purpose, again, presents itself. Like that quote I read, I believe that it starts with opportunity. Opportunity will present itself. The next step you have to do is take action. Once you take action, it's a learning process to figure out the purpose of that opportunity. Therefore, you get to the end goal, the purpose that you're seeking. But if you're just sitting there trying to search for it, how do you know what you're searching for? If you can't find your purpose, how do you know? It comes with opportunity and taking action and then learning the process and getting to the result, the purpose of that opportunity.
So taking action, no matter where you're at those fork in the road moments, the opportunities that present themselves, recognizing those and taking action.
Yeah, and they can be extremely positive events, or they could be something that's detrimental in your life. It could be either or. It doesn't have to be, and sometimes it's smaller than that, you know. It could be something that's just every day. It's like, oh, I noticed this thing, and finally it clicks. Like, well, maybe I should pursue that.
Yeah, I think of someone who, like, an example that comes to my head is maybe you're in the workplace and every single day, like, people are coming to you with problems and you don't recognize every day, you know, those people coming to you with problems, like, that is kind of, I want to take the word purpose out of it. Like, that is one of your gifts that you're blessed with. Like, you can empathize with someone, or you can communicate well with someone. And like, that is a recognizable moment of people are consistently coming to you with problems. That is your gift, and then pursue that. Recognize that, like, I have a knack for, maybe it's understanding people, communicating with people. How can I continue to do this? Could I make it into a career? Or is it just something that I need to recognize that I'm good at and continue to get better at?
So how do people better recognize those opportunities or those day-to-day things that they're overlooking?
Well, how do you?
I didn't for a while.
What are they? What do you recognize?
Well, I asked you first.
I don't. I'm I guess in the process of it. I'm figuring out, I'm becoming conscious. I'm no longer just unconsciously rushing through my day every single day. I'm living more consciously about my words, my actions, how other people act, how other people interact with me, and figuring out what I'm good at. Obviously, if I'm talking right now about people, there's something that intrigues me about people, so it's something along those lines. But I think it starts with becoming aware, becoming conscious of the things you're saying, the things you're doing. Awareness is going to allow you to see that fork in the road.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's a lot of opportunity overlooked just because people don't think about anything further than what's right in front of them, right? There's no reason to do anything else because what we're doing right now is comfortable, and it just makes for an easier, convenient situation. So if you want to know about something, what do? We wait till someone tells us or expects it to just kind of happen, and then we get frustrated when it doesn't. So got to expand your area, expand your awareness, like you said.
Love it. I want to transition, talk about some health and wellness stuff. You weighed in at 220 pounds on Monday.
Yes.
On Monday. Today you weighed in at 210 pounds. Not a water cut. You got a gallon of water next to you. You cut 10 pounds in 72 hours. How did you do it?
210 is my goal.
9 pounds.
I really kept my workout routine the same. I'm trying to think about it right now. My workout routine didn't change much. I've been running quite a bit, and I think that's why it's so easy to shed that weight, is because really all you have to do is tweak your nutrition when it comes down to it. I mean, I had a family get together with a lot of delicious food and chose to not overdo it, and then had another family get together and same thing, chose not to overdo it, and then just tweaked like carbs, tweaked my food intake, and reduced my salt intake. Really, it came down to my nutrition, what I was eating.
So some of it may be water weight, that you reduce sodium, not retaining as much water.
Yeah, I don't think that was too drastic, but the last 3 days have been minimal carb intake, which I believe that has a lot to do with your retention of things. So
yeah, you talk about how you drained your glycemic storage. So you cut out all your carbs, so your body burnt up the carbohydrates, the glucose, that carbohydrate energy that you had in your body, burnt it up. So talk about that a little bit.
So yeah, your glycogen stores are, when you eat more carbs, they just continue to kind of fill up and stuff like that, and then they absorb water and things like that. So when you reduce your carbs, they're less full, and you get less water retention in your body. That's why people cut out carbs. They look a lot leaner or whatever the next day and things like that. You retain less. And so when you reduce that, so carbs spike your glycemic index quite a bit. Carbs and whey protein are like the top ones, and processed sugars. So when you're not spiking that up, your body metabolizes better and your blood sugar is not up. You are just utilizing things better. You're using your food better when you don't have those spikes and things like that. It's just maintaining a good machine. It's working well. So cutting that out, reducing my food intake, and then consistently weighing at the same time. So I would weigh myself in the morning, right when I woke up, before any food, before any water. So fresh out of bed, in the nude, naked and unafraid, on the scale. And then I would, usually in the morning, I drink a big 32 ounce or whatever thing of water. And then I have 2 cups of coffee. And then I work out, and I come back and drink some more water. But when I was weighing myself, I did that besides come back from my workout, whether it was run or weights or both, I would come back in and weigh myself right away to get my number of after I'm done sweating. So like today, for example, I was 211.4 when I got up, and then drank my water, my coffee, and then weighed myself again because I was curious, 214. And then went and worked out, did my thing, which was a run today, and I was back at 211. So I'm going to weigh myself tonight and see. It's just interesting. Just that water and 2 cups of coffee, look what that did to me. Imagine if I'm doing that with Fritos and cereal and just food in general, how much that can add and fluctuate. And people get so out of whack over their weight. Weight's an average. You can't go day by day. You have to go weekly. Take your weight every day, but then take the average and find the median. throughout the week. So that's your typical weight because it fluctuates just an enormous amount throughout the day.
I think the biggest takeaway that I take from it, it's just incredible, kind of like how you referenced how quick that came off. And whether, even if it was only 5 pounds, like 5 pounds in 72 hours, it was easy for you too, right? It's not like you're sitting there starving yourself. You're eating, just cut back your portions. You even had some bad meals. You just portioned it. I know you fasted for a day in there, and then, you've been eating normal. I see you at the office, you're eating normal.
Yeah, I did have a 1 day, 24-hour fast, and the meals actually, I could have eaten bad, but I didn't because there's chicken, so I just chicken. I had potato salad, but not half a plate of potato salad. It was like a tiny little, just enough. And that's not typically me, that's not typically a habit that most of us have. Like, oh, it tastes good, I want more. But again, going back to what you said, consciously aware, be aware of what you're doing. What is my goal? I'm trying to achieve that goal. Got to be aware that this potato salad is super tasty and I want some, but it's not going to get me there. And so I had my scoop and called it quits. And that's a difficult thing to do, especially with food. Most of us really enjoy food, but when it comes down to it, you're just, it's not going to, it's what it comes down to, and just do it. And you complain about, I do this. I complain about, I'm not losing weight, or I don't look peeled, as you like to say. Why? Because I keep my portion control out of whack, or I have that one-time sweet, or that thing, or that cheat meal. Big thing, actually, glad you brought the fasting up, is typically both have done fasting for quite a while now. My typical 20-hour fast, I would just smash a giant meal at the end of the day because I'm just so hungry, right? Didn't do that last night. Yeah, last night was the end of the fast. Had just a couple of veggies and then a salad and then my dinner, but it was a decent portion, but I didn't eat 3 days worth of food because I'm so hungry at the end of the day because I didn't eat. I ate like a regular meal. So that was a huge difference for me. And I realized that in the morning as well, how much less I weighed and how I looked in the morning compared to just going little bananas at night and eating a ridiculous amount after a 24-hour fast. So if you're interested in fasting, do not break your fast with 3 days worth of food that could feed a village. Control yourself and eat just a normal meal would be my best advice, so that one, you don't ruin all the things you were trying to do. Two, it's extremely difficult on your digestive system after going throughout the day, and it just isn't beneficial. And then three, you're going to look and feel much better that night, and then the next morning you're going to feel 10 times better.
I agree with that. But there are people out there that I've seen, they do, there's this one group, this company does 20-hour fasts, and they eat in a 4-hour window, and they eat whatever they want. And that's kind of their big thing. And they're all shredded. So granted, you could be shredded and still have, unhealthy gut, digestive issues. Maybe they're on steroids. I don't know. There's a lot of variables to health and wellness. So it's so hard to tell from other people. That's why accredited research is important. You got to be careful what you read on social media too, who's putting it out there. There's so much misinformation and so many variables, but best way to do it is practice it, do it yourself.
I would say the best way to get information is in a book. And people say, well, I don't have time to read. Okay. How long do people spend reading Facebook and quotes on Instagram and stuff? Besides the point, there's always time. You can make time to read for 10 minutes. And the reason I say a book is because it's got to come from, well, you do get authors where they have the free book if you order their program and stuff. Don't do that. But a typical book that you would buy at the bookstore that you're going to, you have an accredited author. Hopefully you've done somewhat research on the author and know that they have some sort of background in what they're talking about, or they're not just coming out with a random thing. 2, you have their publisher and editor that goes through it and has to, their name's on the line. So if they edit and publish this book that's just a bunch of random hocus pocus, now that publishing company is on the line, like their reputation, same as the editor and the author. So you have a lot more extensive procedures to get information out to people, rather than I'm going to throw up a blog on the best way to train for a marathon because I did it for the last few months, so now I'm an expert. No, I'm not. I'm still learning, and I need to learn a little bit quicker because it's coming up soon. So that is why I truly believe a book is the best way to get information. Not saying that you cannot get information from social media and online and stuff like that, but the most valued, the most extensive process to get information to people is through a book.
It's a great point. I want to build off that. There's one thing I noticed, like with books, with articles, so many opinions. I don't enjoy reading books anymore that are based off of opinions unless I know I respect and like want to learn more about the person. Then I care about the opinion, but a book on leadership and I don't even know who the author is, and I read that book and it's like I'm living and dying by someone else's opinions. I think it's more harmful because you're putting in a bunch of opinions rather than fact-based research, and you're building your knowledge off of someone that you don't even know what they're doing or if it's working. It's just an opinion.
I agree, and that's why it's important to research the author a little bit too. That's something I didn't do when I first started out. But if you don't do that and you just pick up a book and read, even if it's a book full of opinion, still a book. I can think of one author who's extremely popular, and I read their book, and essentially that's all it is opinion, but I read the whole thing when I was just starting out reading, and it kind of just opened my perspective a little bit. Now I look back, I'm like, well, it's a little just all opinion, but what is not an opinion? A lot of research, the people that share the research are just more focused on the outcome they want, and then they share that to make their research look kind of sway towards their belief or opinion. So it's really hard to say, man. I think it comes down to cross-referencing a lot of things, reading both sides, that you look at two completely different opinions, cross-reference. Maybe I don't agree with this person, but I'm going to read it anyways because I want to see their perspective in it.
Ironic you say that. The meeting this morning with the leader of the organization was telling me how he cross-references in one of his studies with 3 different books, and he was showing me how he does it. And to me, it was the first time I've really seen it like in action, of like having 3 books out, cross-referencing, looking at the definition here, going over to this book, finding, the origin here, and this is what it means in this sentence. So it's 100% true. Like if you want the honest truth on something, cross-referencing and finding truth is key. This is probably the most boring conversation to people, but I enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about the workout we've sort of both been doing lately. How's your running going and the structure of things, how you're doing? Because you had some pretty impressive times the last few conversations we had about your running.
2 short mile days, 1 long mile day. That's really what it is.
And what on your long mile day last week you're pretty proud of? What did you do differently that day? And what was the main difference that day?
I think the most important thing was I was stopping to hydrate throughout the process. Like 3 times I stopped at a park and just grabbed some water versus running 20 miles and not drinking a thing of water. Like that's pretty crazy. Like if you think about running for 3 hours, working out without stopping for 3 hours, without a single drink of water. Like, how many times do you grab a sip at the gym within an hour?
Yes, agreed. I was doing that style of just push through for a lot of miles without any water pretty much the entire time until last week. I did halfway. I stopped to get water, which I wish I would have done more because it was delicious by that time. And then I could feel a difference for the next couple miles, and then kicked in again of like, wow, that feeling of that hydration would be good right now. So
another big thing is salt water before I train. Just that's my pre-workout now, is salt and water. Stan Efferdine does this. He's big time bodybuilder, doesn't use any supplements, and he has a bunch of like research on salt water before training and the benefits of it. And I've been doing it, and I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I feel amazing doing that before any workout. Weights, running, just a 8-ounce glass of sea salt and good old Appleton City water.
What do you eat before those long, 22-mile run?
I did it fasted this past weekend.
Okay.
I've tried a banana. One weekend I tried to like blow it up, like sweet potatoes a bunch the day before, and then I had oatmeal like 2 hours before the run, and that like backfired. I was sweating and gut rolling, gross. And this past weekend was just, I like fasted running, just hydrated fasted running.
So you didn't have nothing?
Well, during the run I had those natural goo packs. I got the Honey Stinger. It's just like a pack of honey, pretty much organic honey, 100 calories. So that was helpful too.
Yeah. So not like a typical thing you hear about is like, oh, eat, a bunch of carbs and stuff before you run. I've heard that, bags of chips and sandwiches and all that. And I agree with you and disagree with that. And I have done every long, I did 22 miles Saturday, fasted. Just, I peeled a banana before the run, and I'm just like, I don't really want to run with this.
I don't know about you, but are you doing the race fasted?
Yeah.
A couple weeks here?
Yeah.
I'm just going to treat it like another training session and keep going up. Like, I'm enjoying these distance runs.
Yeah, and I just kind of want to prove the point of, do you really need a bag of potato chips and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to get through a race? I don't believe so.
Might have a free cookie afterward, though.
That'd be tasty.
But the running's amazing. I think even if you can't run, like walk, being outside and moving your body is so much better than sitting in the gym and working out. I think, like, comparing the two. I still enjoy, lifting weights. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah, it's funny you say that because neither of us would say that a few years ago.
No. If you told me a 4-mile run is my short run right now, I'd smack my future self in the face and say, go to the gym, get a pump.
Yeah, spaghetti arms. So what's the key takeaway from this conversation that you want people to know?
Biggest thing on my mind is that patience. And I need it more than anyone else, but just patience, I don't want to say living in the moment, but just being in this 24 hours, being in this moment, this conversation with you, being respectful of people. I think patience ties into the conversation I had and the fact of, I'm not worried about the meet I have with Chad afterwards, the phone calls I have to make. I'm just being in that moment. I'm ultimately just patient in everything I'm doing, and I'm present, patient and present. Ooh, quote of the day right there. Patient and present.
And then what's a book that sticks out in your mind that really got you thinking and thought it was valuable?
The Holy Bible. That's my honest answer. The book, it's an incredible even if you take, well, you can't take Jesus out of the Bible, just taking like faith out of it. And, people have this like view of Christianity or religion as like this mystical thing. Just take that out of it. And if you read the Bible as what it is, it's a historical artifact that authors wrote passages in. It's an amazing book filled with so much knowledge and amazing stories of history, things that actually happened. So I think it's so cool how it just ties in history and the best life lessons into one. And I'm probably like maybe 1% into it. Like I'm going to be studying this thing my whole life. So that's my number one book. What about you? Takeaways and favorite book?
More or less just be, I don't want to say be aware because we always say that, but just take opportunity, look at what is going on. And if it's not connecting with what you believe in, what you want, there's an opportunity somewhere that you're missing, right? So look, don't try and find and search for your purpose, because if you're forcing it, it's not going to happen. But there's things that are continually happening in your life that you need to take action on. So start opening eyes, start looking a little bit further than your little close realm. And I'm continually trying to do that. So I'm trying to preach that I don't do that. So for a book, I enjoyed the book Lincoln. It's about Abraham Lincoln. And I thought that book it's a pretty big book, so I didn't read the whole thing yet. I'm still working on it. But I thought it just was very intriguing, much like you said, history and then people and how he thought. And like his biggest takeaway for leading was not coercing people into something. So not like demanding people into something, sort of persuading an outcome. So learning about people, learning what interests them, and then correlating what outcome they'd be interested in to the day-to-day, the purpose, the goal, the whatever. So he has a lot of good perspectives, and I just found that book extremely interesting. And he's just about people. He's all about extremely humble, extremely selfless, just all about people. So a lot of good reflection points in that book so far.
Honest Abe. Love it.
Yeah, so that concludes the podcast today. Zach, where can they find the podcast?
Podcast can be found iTunes, Solutions, the number 2, Wellness, or you can search Iron Alliance. We're on Spotify as well, so hop on Spotify. If you're listening through our website right now, it's probably more accessible through those two things, so go check us out. Spotify, iTunes. Through iTunes, please, if you enjoy this, give us a review, an honest review. 5 or a 1 star, as we say. You either hate it or love it. And then subscribe and continue to tune in. Send us anything you guys want to hear on the show. We try to talk about stuff that we're in here in the office talking about every single day, because we find that most people are thinking about it, but they don't talk about it. So that's what we try to address, and most of it's in the field of some sort of wellness. So shoot us those topics, and have a great day.